Okay. Hi, you all. So we're going to start off with presenting the family game plan. And it's just to highlight the key to your student's future. Before we start off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Paula. I'm a third-year psychology major at UCR, and I'm also a peer advisor that works for the Career Center. And our agenda for today's presentation is going to look a little bit like this. So we're going to go over an icebreaker activity, then a fact and myth activity, and lastly, just kind of going over the services and resources that we offer here at the Career Center. So for parents, I just want you to think back at an age of 18 and reflect on the following questions. So at age 18, at what point were you in the career decision-making process? As well as who and what resources did you look for to help with that process? This could have been friends, family, or even like the career counselors at your local high school. And then also, I just want to set the overall tone by stating that the Career Center and Career Specialists serve as the light, the satellite, and the GPS. In other words, our goal is to show students options based on their interests, values, and personality. We let them decide and we show them the directions of how to get there. In the end, they're the driver and it's their decision. We provide them guidance to help them see the bigger picture. And you'll see this theme kind of go over and spill into the presentation in itself. And also, I just want to go over our fact and myth activity. And the purpose of this is just kind of to refute a lot of common misconceptions that we carry within ourselves and that I carried within myself as well before even going into college. So how this works is I'm just going to say a simple statement and feel free to pause and state whether you think it's a fact or a myth, or you can just yell it out loud. So our first statement is the majority of students find themselves in a career field related to their major. Now, this is a myth. So according to Career Builder, 47% college educated not working in the field of their major. Also, the U.S. Census Bureau found that 74% of those who have a bachelor's degree in STEM are not employed in STEM occupations. Now, this isn't to scare any like STEM students or anything like that, or parents of STEM students. It doesn't mean that there wasn't any occupations available, but it was simply that the student, right, chose to either expand their experience and their skill set by going into a different field, or they just found something that aligned more with them. An example I can think of is one of my coworkers here at the Career Center, Kirsten, right? She graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemistry. However, she is now a career counselor for the UCR Career Center. So it's perfectly fine that things change, right? And then our second statement would be declaring a major before third year still allows students to graduate in 4 years. This is a fact. So fortunately for me, I haven't changed my major. I've stuck to psychology all 3 years, but a lot of my peers and friends have changed their majors, which is perfectly fine and very common. So 80% of students change their major at least once. And data shows that as long as those students make their final decision by the end of their second year, they're still able to graduate in 4 years. And this could be done due to like many reasons. One that I can think of is your first 2 years, you're honestly just taking a lot of general ed classes. So a lot of sophomores and freshmen tend to take like all of the same classes regardless. And then also within those 2 years, there's major exploration, which can lead to knowledge of all options available. Also identifying a major that fits their interests and skills. And then our statement number 3 would be specific training and experience in one's chosen field are the most variables in finding a job after graduation. So this surprisingly is a myth, right? And the key words that I want you to really pay attention to are specific and most. So there are things called transferable skills. And according to NACE Job Outlook of 2019, these are the top 10 skills or / qualities that employers and companies look for when hiring future candidates. So if we just take a moment to kind of highlight the first 4, for instance, problem solving, ability to work in a team, strong work ethic, and analytical and quantitative skills. A lot of these skills are non-technical, meaning that they're learned outside of the classroom. So for instance, just at the top of my head, problem solving skills can be seen as how am I going to find the time, right, to meal prep, to work out, to call my mom, and then to find time to study, right? Ability to work in a team can be seen as how are me and my org can communicate with each other and remind each other of our fundraising goal for the end of the week. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of these skills that you use in your current occupation as well. Now for our statement number 4, internships are a great way to gain real-world experience and often lead to job offers. This is a fact. So a lot of the students I do work with one-on-one tend to really look for internships, and I help with their resume and interview preparation in order to do so. And that is because internships are a great way to do so, right? So the difference between internships and actual job would be that internships allow you to be in an environment where you're more comfortable asking questions. You probably get more one-on-one time with a manager or your supervisor, and you're able to ask them about the ins and outs of the company or the industry. And it's more than just a basic job, but you're kind of learning more on the side as well. So if we look at this figure, this is the influence of attributes, influence rating, right? To see how likely you're going to get hired for that full-time position after graduation. So if we look at the 2019 average influence rating for 2019, right, there's a 4.6 rating for completed an internship with your organization. You will most likely get hired. And then also has internship experience in your industry, has a rating of 4.5. So these are like the highest ratings, these top 2 rows. And also keep in mind that the one underneath that is major. So just because you have a major within that kind of like area, right, it doesn't guarantee you the job, but what's more important is that internship experience. So in order to get an internship, right, you kind of have to take advantage of our resources. So we're going to look a little bit into that. So our services are split up into 2 categories. So we have the counseling side of it and also the networking side of it. And unfortunately, with everything going on right now, everything has been moved to like virtual and online. However, you're still getting the same amount of exposure as you would beforehand. So I'm just kind of going to go through these one by one. So to begin with, in the counseling side, we have career planning and assessments, and that's something that you can work with your career specialist one-on-one. So career planning looks a little bit kind of like a checklist to kind of see what goals you should be meeting at a certain year, right? And then also assessments are more for yourself. So students can take these assessments so that way they can kind of get to know themselves a little bit better and make better professional decisions for themselves. We also host different skill building workshops. So this can look like resume writing, cover letter writing, how to not get fired, interview preparation, and so on. And then we also help with graduate school planning. So once your student does graduate with their bachelor's and they decide to go to grad school, we do help with the whole application process. The whole application process in itself is more than like 6 months, and there's a lot of documents and a lot of things you kind of need to organize and get into place. So we definitely do help students do so. And also resume and interview preparation. This is where a lot of advisors or peer advisors like myself do help students more one-on-one with. And this can look like a 10-minute appointment where I meet with a student and kind of just do a resume critique, or taking those 10 minutes just to kind of ask me about what questions that they should ask during an interview or what questions they shouldn't ask. Or even if students just want to come in and say, how do I start creating a resume, right? So when I first graduated high school, I didn't have a resume on me. I never worked beforehand, so I didn't know the whole interview process and how it worked and what was appropriate and so on. We also offer students career development programs, and those are tailored to specific groups, which I'll go more into depth later. And then on the networking side of it, we have different employer panels, major events, and networking events. So employer panels are just gonna look like the top row in the middle picture. So if we see this picture right here, we basically see like people sitting down, and each person is a representative from a different company, and students can come in and ask them questions about what is your company culture like, how do I stand out from other candidates around me, what is something that you didn't expect working here, and just allowing students to kind of gain more insight from these different companies that they might be looking into working for in the future. As far as major events, we host over 12 career fairs in the whole year. And like I mentioned before, everything's going to be online, right? So it will kind of look in terms of like Zoom meetings, right? And stuff like that. For the career fairs, we use Career Eco, which I've done in the past 2 fairs that I've attended. And it's actually really efficient, and it's actually very good. So if you look at the top row on the right-hand side, that's basically what a career fair will look like. And a lot of the times, each person that is standing behind a table as a representative of a company, right, or an employer. And you kind of have to wait in line to talk to them. But however, if it's online, they usually message you like instantly back. And I thought that was a really like good benefit of doing things online as well. And then online job and internship resources. So you can find many online jobs or jobs online, right? Or internships, resources. And we do this mainly through advertising our UCR Handshake platform, which is our job search portal. And we'll look into that in a bit. But before we do, I just kind of want to introduce you to our website, because our website is full of all these great resources that you can use. So if you go to careers.ucr.edu, this is how our website looks. And there's also an advertisement right here for Standout. And Standout is just an online mock interview tool that I highly recommend students use. And how it works is students can record themselves answering interview questions, and then they actually get constructive criticism or feedback back to them. So I think it's really cool, and it's something students should use, especially right now. And then also, like I mentioned before, we have our different career plans on our website as well. And feel free to download them and just kind of go over your students with them. And like I said, it's a checklist of kind of letting you know what goals and milestones you should be meeting at a certain year. And it's just really good just to kind of keep yourself on the right track. And then also our career development programs. So like I said, they're tailored to different populations of students. So the Butterfly Project, for instance, is for undocumented students. We also have Orbits, which is helping first generation students that are barely starting UCR. And then also Get Hired is for our international students, and it helps them just kind of be exposed to different professional opportunities. So how these programs work, the length of each program really depends on the program itself, but they're usually hosted by like 1 or 2 career specialists. And basically it's like a group of students that meet up like once a week, and they go through all these workshops, and then at the end sometimes they're offered internships or just introduced to professional opportunities in general. So if you want to learn more about it, feel free to kind of go on our website, and all the applications are also listed online. Now to get to Handshake, you're going to just go to the top right corner, and you're going to hit the Students tab right here. And you're going to log in using your NetID and password. So I'm talking to students, right? This is the same one that you would use for your RWeb. And once you log in and you do that, it's going to look a little bit like this. The main thing I tell students to do is to fill up their profile, right? So just adding their school, their GPA if they can, right? Also any relevant courses they might be taking. And they also have like a My Journey section, which is kind of like an introduction section where they can put what they're pursuing or what they're interested in. And also just kind of overall, the more you have on your profile, the more likely employers and companies are going to click on it. Some can even reach out to you using the messaging tool and tell you about like an opportunity they might want you to apply for, and so on. But you can also search for jobs yourself. So if you go under the jobs tab, there's different jobs and internships, as well as volunteer opportunities that you can search for using our different filters. And filters can be something as simple like location, major, interest. It filters it out, and it really narrows down to jobs that you would find most relevant to apply for. We also have our events tab, which is just keeping updated of all the current events and workshops and presentations that we are going to be hosting. It's all on our events tab, as well as on our Handshake. On our Instagram, right? If you go to UCR Career Center and you follow us on Instagram, we're constantly posting all the workshops that we are currently hosting as well. So that's also an option. But yeah, and then if you hit the Career Center tab and you go to appointments, you can actually set up to make a 30-minute appointment or a 10-minute appointment with a career specialist or a peer advisor. And you can just kind of use that time to ask them anything, or to kind of just set a plan of what you're going to do in a professional sense at your time here at UCR. And that is basically it. You guys so much, and have a wonderful day.